Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Maybe just let's we'll come back to this right away. I want to sort of give you an opportunity to tell people who are listening or watching, because we
Yeah,
do, post these on our YouTube channel as well. Just a little bit of a history of who are you?
sure. Yeah, well, I'm Cam. I'm the vocalist and rhythm guitar player for my band, Gentleman's Crow, which is kind of what my passion and slash business, that's what I want it to be. I've lived in Florida for 4 years. I came here for college and I just kind of stayed. And right around the time I got here is when I started really like driving at music as something to turn into a career. And so I met band members here that have stayed consistent, and I never left Florida. Got stuck down here in old Florida,
Yeah.
um, which is great though right now because with everything that's going on, Florida's pretty relaxed. So I feel like I haven't felt too much. I mean, some people hate it, some people love it, but I haven't felt too much effect of the pandemic down here. It feels like, at least.
Yeah. And it kind of seems like, fingers crossed, we're kind of maybe moving away from the worst of it. So
Yeah, oh, for sure. Because I know, like, my brother, he lived in New York for a long
yeah.
period of time up until the start of the pandemic. I know that was crazy. And, my parents live in Baltimore. It's still really strict. And I'm sure you're
Yeah,
based in
so
Canada, right?
yeah, we're in Canada. So things are starting to kind of open up here. It's just, it's whenever restrictions are removed or whatever, it's always kind of controversial, right? And
Yeah.
in the media and stuff. So yeah, we're just kind of starting to open things up a little bit more here, like removing some of the masking mandates for kids. What else are we doing? I guess like we had like a vaccine passport, like it's called the restrictions exemption program up here,
Yeah.
and they just canceled that. So we had that for a number of months, and they've just
Oh, that's
canceled
good.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean that makes things a little bit easier for for people like yourself, like artists, to get out and play shows, and there's no
Yeah.
capacity limits anymore and stuff like
No,
that.
for like
So
a short period of time, we had a capacity limit here, and it quickly faded away. I think it was just for like a few months. At the end of 2020, was like venues were at like 50% capacity.
and
That's
and
kind of when.
did you guys like so I mean you guys just put out a new album.
Yeah,
So there's we've talked to over the last couple of years, there's when bands put out albums sort of during the pandemic, a lot of them will sort of talk about having a bit more time to focus on that. And was that sort of
yeah,
a situation for you guys, like you were able to just like really, I guess, get into that sort of project and get that going?
yeah. It was kind of funny the way this one kind of wrapped together because, like, I want to say like a quarter of the songs on the album, like at least three of them, were probably like 2-year old like relics that we had either stuff that we just kind of jammed in rehearsals or songs that we started to work on but then stopped right when the pandemic first started. Because I did say Florida was relaxed, but for like the first 3 months of it, I mean, everything was shut down here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it wasn't the same as everywhere else. So during that period of time, I think we had some songs that left off from there, and the rest of them just kind of did develop over the whole entire pandemic, I would say. Some of them, like, I spent a lot of time. I didn't have a kid during the pandemic yet, so no baby. Just living in Florida with my girlfriend and some roommates, and obviously we weren't working. I was in college, but college had closed. So
yeah.
I didn't have a lot to do. So I spent a lot of time just making demos on my computer. I'm talking like, 6, 7 hours a day, to the point where everyone else in the house was starting to think there was something wrong with me. Because I was just so bored, but I never had so much time to like sit and create.
Right.
I never had that much time. But just between, I was always working like a serving job and then going to school. And even pre-kid, I was still busy. And I was like, wow, this is great.
So you had this like dedicated time to,
Yeah,
because it's like
yeah,
anything else. Like I kind of find that a little bit too. So like I play a little bit too, but even with like working on the podcast and stuff, there's like a
it can be
groove you
tough.
have to get into, right?
Yeah,
Like if you're kind of trying to do everything off the side of your desk, like after the kids go to bed or whatever, like after you get your other stuff done,
It's
you
hard.
kind of, you can't just like jump in for like an hour here or there. Like you kind of need that extended
You
amount
need
of time
a couple hours to really
yeah.
like knock it out. It's tough, just now more than ever. At that time, we didn't have a baby yet, and so I had a lot of time, which was good because I did get a lot done through that. But now, like what you're saying, like especially the past like 5-6 months, the band stuff always come in last. It's like after work, then hang out with family all night, take care of the baby, give girlfriend a break, and then by the time that's over, it's like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if I sometimes have a burst of energy, I will jump on my computer for a few hours and stay up till like 12 or 1 and just risk being exhausted at 8 o'clock the next morning when I go to work.
Yeah.
But you just gotta, that's kind of, I used to get annoyed about it a little bit, like just at times, not annoyed with the baby, but just annoyed with myself and like my energy and motivation. Cause I was like, I don't know why, I can't do all this stuff, and accomplish all of it. And I started to be like, it's because you have so much else going on. It gotta be a little nicer to yourself, I think, when you become a parent. Because I think you can be really hard on yourself when you're a parent about getting all the things you want to do done. At least I was finding myself being really tough on myself about things. And I was like, I think sometimes you got to sit back and be like, I do have a living creature that I take care of, know, and I have a financial responsibility and all these things that need to get accomplished before I can work on my silly little music thing.
That's a really tough adjustment for parents, like whether it's, when you do music or whatever it is that you like to do.
No matter what, I feel like everyone has an extra passion that they want to make into their career. And I'm sure like for you, it's like, it's gotta be like, it's like the podcast or, everyone has something that they're really passionate about that they could spend, 40 hours a week working on.
Yeah.
Right. But we aren't afforded that amount of time to work on it until we hit a certain level with it that we can sustain. And for music, and I'm sure for podcasts too, it's hard to get to the level where you can sustain money from just your streams and your views or people buying merchandise or whatever it might be. It does happen, but I feel like it takes years to really grow.
And I mean, even in addition to like whatever your creative passion is, even those like other little things that sort of, make you, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's like, you and your girlfriend maybe like to like, watch TV together, like that's what you would do in the evening, like watch shows or you I don't know, you like to golf or you like to, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All those things are kind of challenged when you become a parent, right? And so that adjustment can be tough. Like, it's kind of coming to terms with that.
Oh yeah, that was definitely like really the first few months I found easy. I don't know, because she slept so much. Like really, it's like it doesn't. They say it gets easier the older they get, but it's like I think it's like a mix of both. Like some things get easier because they, she's starting to become a little more self-sufficient. She'll sit and play by herself for longer periods of time. But also they are moving more and they need more stuff, and there's more things to do the older they get. So it's like, some things get a little easier, some things get more challenging. It's kind of like a game of it's like a game of chess trying to pick and choose like when you can get your stuff done.
Keep up with them, right?
Yeah, you got to keep up with them. What I found that works really well for at least for us, and this might not work for everybody, but we as a band, we rent a fairly large rehearsal room that's just ours. We lease it from a studio here, so we have our own lock and key and we can go there 24/7. It's kind of like renting an apartment, but you're just renting a rehearsal room.
Yep.
And when we use it as a band twice a week, we have I'm able to do 2 to 3 hour practices a week, which is probably more than I thought I'd be able to swing.
That's impressive.
But really, I think it is a lot. And it works out because then that's like my 2 nights, and then girlfriend gets the other nights of the week when I'm not working to do what she wants. Because it's just kind of fair to work it out like that, I think, time wise. But what I've started doing is at the end of the day, even sometimes like 10 or 11 o'clock, baby will be asleep. Me and Chloe will have hung out for a while. She'll go to bed and I'll still be up, and I'll go back to the rehearsal room late. And I'll sometimes stay there till 1 or 2. And once again, risk being tired at work, but to be able to work on songs and to be able to run our merchandise orders and stuff.
Yeah.
Because as things have picked up and we've started to do more Instagram advertising and gain new people we've had, more of an influx of stuff to take care of that's like business related.
Yeah.
And not necessarily just music, which is great because we actually start to make a little bit of money. You know, it's not a lot, but we start to get a few orders a week on stuff. And even that, like I was thinking, I was like, I couldn't imagine if we were selling like 100 shirts a week, I would never be able to process all those orders.
Right.
Like I would need extra people.
Yeah, you're like in this like in between phase where you're kind of trying to manage it yourself, but there's maybe a point where, and you're trying to figure that out. Where's that point where maybe we need more people, or a bigger team or whatever. Yeah, it's a lot of work, because the business of being in a band is there's a lot to do.
Yeah, for the first 2 years, and even still now, I mean, we are still a very small thing. We did release an album, and I think we've gotten some good publicity with it, and gotten some good good things are coming from it, but we still have like years of work to go before we would have like a real, I think, like functioning like full-time thing, which is what we want, but it just takes the time to do it. But especially with a baby, it's like going back to that rehearsal room at night once or twice a week has been huge for also just creating new music, because that's the biggest thing I really find myself not being able to do now, is being able to play and write and come up with new stuff, especially at home. It's, if she's awake, then I can't do it because it's just, there's too much going on. And then if she's asleep, it's like, I don't want to wake her up.
Right.
So that it's been good, and it's worked really well for just a musician's family, I guess you could say.
Yeah. You got to figure out what works for you, right? Like everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's situation's a bit different. I kind of like that idea of, and my wife and I sort of do the same thing. We trade off a little bit.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, hey, I need to get this done today or tonight or whatever. And then like, if you need to do something tomorrow night, I got this. And you just kind of have to figure it out. Not everybody has, somebody to lean on to do that too. So it can be tough. Like, know lots of people who they don't have grandparents around who can help out. They might be, maybe they're a single dad or single parent.
Yeah.
And so that's even tougher, right?
It can be hard. The more isolated you are, I think the harder it becomes. Especially, because our family doesn't live here either. So we have like one person we trust as a babysitter. Yeah. Especially since she's still so young. I mean, we haven't ventured into that realm of things. It's also kind of hard to afford. Having someone watch your kid is expensive.
For sure.
But it should be, because you want quality people, making sure that nothing's going to happen to your child. So it shouldn't be something that's cheap,
Right. Exactly.
Like you don't want to buy the Walmart brand babysitter. You want the you want the premium version, to make sure that nothing's going to happen to your child.
Yeah, man, that transition of like, first time having somebody look after your like baby, that's hard.
Yeah.
When they get older, it's a little bit easier, but so I can tell you that. But
just 2 weeks ago, or no, about 3 weeks ago, we had our first like long night where we left her with a sitter. It was actually for the album release show. The album came out on the 28th of January, and we had the release show at one of our favorite venues in Jacksonville on the 29th. So that was like our first time leaving her for like 6 hours. So that way I could come to the show. It went great though. It was good.
Awesome. Yeah, it feels good to get that one under your belt, right? Like, yeah, we can do this. Yeah.
And and Chloe was stoked, because she's like, yeah, now I can I get to come and be a part of it. And there's a lot of people there. It's definitely like a big party of a show, and it's something that she wanted to be a part of, which is good.
That's awesome. Well, this is the Rad Dad show. Do you consider yourself a Rad Dad?
I feel like I do. I feel like I get shit done. And also maintain being the best parent that I can, especially like what we've already talked about. It's like I knew obviously Sawyer, having a baby, her name's Sawyer, was never like super part of our early life plan, but things happen, and I knew that once we were having the baby, that if I was still going to actually try my hardest to be a musician and have a band that's making money and doing successful things, that I was going to have to put in like 125% to accomplish the extra stuff, which is where doing all these extra hours really late at night and really trying to manage everything as well as I can. It's like you have to just get shit done to keep doing it, because it's easy to fall off and just be like, oh, whatever. Like it's so I've been there a couple of times. I've been like, whatever. Like I don't know if I really have the energy to keep doing this and keep trying to make it like a dream. But then I'll always wake up the next morning and it's like I can never, it's not an addiction, but it's like I can never quite break. Like no matter what thing is like thrown my way, like I always can just like kind of bounce over it. I'm like the next day I'm like, all right, we're gonna be a successful band. So every day, just like keep trying to push that to myself.
Yeah. Well, one thing like that comes up a lot on our show in conversations with other musicians or creative people or whatever is like people always kind of identify like, I guess dealing, following your passion or whatever it is, like taking care of yourself in that way kind of seems to be necessary to kind of, I guess, accomplish being a good parent too. Like, whatever that means for you. Like, I'm not saying like everybody has to have a passion project and, whatever, but I can tell you like for me, I struggled with that early on as a dad with maybe not taking enough time to just do even like basic normal things that maybe don't seem that important, but after a while, like I would go without, like, say, for example, playing my guitar a whole bunch or like, doing some recording or having some kind of like creative outlet. And I'd kind of notice, and actually my wife would pick up on it too. She'd be like, dude, like, do you need to just take some time and go like do something for yourself? Because you kind of like, just to have that kind of recharge and keep that side of you active. I think it does help too.
Yeah. It keeps you, I mean, at least for me, it keeps me definitely like more like happy and attainable in my situation. Sorry, I'm moving this around because I had to plug my phone.
Yeah, no problem. It's all good.
I didn't want my phone to die in the middle. That'd be the ultimate failure.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It wouldn't be the first time either. So we've had power outages and all kinds of stuff.
I'm trying to get on here earlier and like my computer now, like Gmail crashing. So I grabbed my girlfriend's computer and then the mic didn't work. And I was like, okay, let me get Zoom on my phone. It's like total failure on getting on here.
No, this is all good. It's all good. This is like dad life, right? Like just scrambling all the time.
Like actually this whole like series of getting onto this and getting it to work has just been a perfect example, I feel like, of trying to keep everything together.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is usual. It's another thing I feel like you learn and with being a parent is that like nothing really goes as planned. So it's like, and all my bandmates kind of know that, especially when we're planning stuff. It's like, I always like tell them, or I told them a while ago, like, expect me to either be late or like maybe really, really late. It's like I never quite know what is going to transpire and what I'll have to take care of, which keeps it, because the baby comes first. So
are you the only one in the band with a child?
Yeah. I'm 20. So I'm 25. Sawyer was born when I was 24. My guitar player and my drummer and my bass player are all 23. Okay. So I got a couple years on them. They all have one of them, my bass player, Matt, he's getting married actually. So he's got a fiance.
Oh, cool.
Which is awesome. And Jacob and Alex both have girlfriends that are very serious. So we're all pretty settled. I would say I'm just like the most settled with responsibility, I would say.
Yeah, going through that as a band can be tough, right? Like going through those life, those big life changes, because like I feel like a band is kind of like your second family, right?
Yeah, and no, there's definitely a dynamic change, I think.
Yeah,
I feel like pre-child, I was a little bit more. I don't want to say I became uptight, because I didn't become uptight when I had the baby, but I think I became a little bit more focused on just getting the things done that we need to get done.
Like efficiency.
Yeah, I've become much more efficient, I feel like, because our practices are shorter. My time is shorter. So my time, I find, is very valuable now. Now more than ever am I the most selfish with my own time. When it comes to like the small bits and pieces I get to myself, it's like very like has to be spent well, which I feel like every parent, maybe they don't want to think that they're selfish with their time, but I feel like, especially with my personal time, I can definitely be like, all right, I need to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's tough for sure. And you just have to, you got to figure it out. And as time goes on, it does change. I want to like go back to something you said earlier. You kind of talked about like, you kind of felt like when the baby came, it was actually pretty easy at first. So I had the total same experience. Me and my wife had the same experience. And I made the mistake of saying that to someone one time, like, oh, it's actually really easy, like in the beginning, or it's pretty easy at the start. And yeah, I learned my lesson not to sort of say that. That's not the case for everybody, but I felt,
yeah.
I felt like that for us, it was kind of like, oh, the baby sleeps a lot. Like, oh, we can still go out for dinner. We can like just put the baby in the car seat, like kind of, under the table or on the seat beside us, and just, this is normal.
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And some people don't have the same experience.
Yeah.
I know that because we've had a couple friends that have had kids around the same time as us. And they're like, we never sleep. She cries, 10, 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's like, we just didn't have the same experience. I feel like we were very blessed with a very chill and happy baby. Even now, she's very easygoing and fun to do stuff with, just not challenging. The biggest challenge right now is like, don't bite that, or don't put that in your mouth.
Yeah.
Or don't stand up on that, because she's figured out that she can pull herself up on things.
Not walking yet, but
not walking, supporting.
Up, yeah.
She supports herself on things. Yeah. So but she loves to stand up on stuff that she shouldn't. Like, let me grab this coffee table in the middle of the hardwood floor, and then I'm gonna slip, kind of stuff,
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You spend like all that age, like, well, and actually it doesn't stop for a while. Like, I've got a 3-year-old still, and it's like, oh my God, like, get down from there. Like, why are you doing that? But yeah, it's kind of exciting though to see them.
Oh no,
I guess like figure that out too, right? So you're walking that balance between like, oh, get down from there, stop that, don't do that, and like kind of letting them figure out the world too.
And it's also, you're like, oh, good, you got that, which is cool. We were just saying this morning, we were like, we need to get her like a little helmet. Like, it'd be great if they just had a little baby helmet with this age, because her head is just this like weight on her body that any way it goes, her whole body goes. She has a very big head though, so that might be why she's got a lot of extra weight up there. So we need something to support her, so when she does those quick throwbacks, she doesn't crack her head on stuff.
Yeah, are you guys like putting the foam on like your tables and stuff like that? Have you done any of that?
Yeah. We have all these like, and we have all these mats for the floor that we'll set up and like hook together. That way she doesn't, crack her head when she's playing on the floor. But recently though, it's like, she's starting to figure out that she can, we can make this big area, but the first thing she does when you put her in it is she goes right for the edge. She's like, get me off of this thing. She's going to find the one spot that she can reach that doesn't have the padding.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is hysterical.
Yeah, it's so funny. You're a musician. Is music important around your house at this point?
Yeah.
Like, I guess for sharing with your daughter, I mean?
Yeah, I play, I just play guitar for her a lot, and she's starting to kind of like, I feel like, enjoy it. Especially when she's sitting in, like, we have various like little pens that she can be in without, escaping. So I'll stick her in there, and, she'll be playing, I'll play her some tunes, and she's starting to get it. She really likes EDM music.
Okay.
A lot of oons. Yep. So anytime that comes on, especially with the visuals that they do on those videos, those crazy animations that are swirling and colorful, she loves those. And she'll actually, just recently she like puts her hand up and she just kind of like waves it. Like, she's almost like doing a little dance, but she's just kind of, she's kind of like flowing with the beat. And it's just hysterical. She loves anything with like a trance beat. Kind of stuff. Well, I mean, I'm playing vinyls all the time too at the house, especially when it's just me and her, because my girlfriend will work a few nights a week at a restaurant. So when I'm here by myself, I kind of, I got the records on, playing her all types of different stuff, and she loves. She thinks it's hysterical when you headbang. So if she's in her little walker, and you just go up to her, and there's a part of a song, it's a little moshy, she start just headbanging in front of her and get real low down to her. She thinks it's the funniest thing she's ever seen.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. She'll have good exposure for music. I feel like we got a lot of cool music taste in this house.
Yeah.
And I also live with my guitar player. So my guitar player and his girlfriend also live here with me and my girlfriend and the baby. So we have a little community joint family thing going on.
That's cool. Yeah, that's exciting. So like, I guess, how do they feel about it? They're kind of like, probably kind of like aunt and uncle kind of vibe happening there, hey?
Yeah, no, they're great with it. They love playing with her. They'll keep an eye on her if I gotta walk the dog or something, or do something quickly. They'll take her for me for a minute. And Yeah, it's cool. It is nice because I was, it's like bringing a baby, into a house with another couple. It's a lot of extra stuff for them too. A lot of noise, a lot of crying, lots of just kind of like chaos at certain times when the house gets totally destroyed with all the baby stuff.
Yeah.
But they're so great about it. They don't ever complain. I think they see how hard we have to work to keep everything together, and they help, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's neat. That's kind of a really neat dynamic that you guys are kind of going through that together.
Yeah. Well, Alex is the guitar player in the band, is also my roommate. He's probably one of my oldest friends, definitely one of my best friends. And we were sitting on the couch a couple weekends ago. Actually, Chloe had taken the baby home to see her parents for a weekend. And so I had like 2 days to myself, and we were just hanging out. And we were talking, and we're like, yeah, like a year ago, never would have thought we would have been living together and you'd have a baby. And it's just like, it's still kind of this like crazy idea sometimes where you kind of really think about your life. You're like, yeah, I never really thought I'd graduate college with a baby either. It's cool. It's cool.
Did you have any fears about becoming a dad?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. Only, I think my biggest concern wasn't actually like physically caring for a child, because I've always liked kids, and I've always, I've never not had a dog, so I've always been caring for something, and
yeah.
So I like having that attachment. I think my biggest concern was we got pregnant when I was in my first semester of my last year of college, and
yeah,
so yeah, that was that, and so I'm trying to finish school. We really didn't have, we had jobs, I was serving tables, and so was Chloe. And we didn't have any significant savings or anything though. We weren't.
Yeah.
Originally, we had talked about kids, and we had talked about that before, because we've been together for 4 years at that point. And I think we had originally were like, yeah, let's, wait till we're in our 30s, we're set up, we have money, a stable income, our own house, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And all that's just gone.
Yeah.
So then I think my biggest fear was, finances, and kind of like this feeling that I just, it was rushed, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I found myself, scrambling to try to have everything together, scrambling like emotionally and mentally to be like as mature and, be as better than I was at the time. And, to obviously have income, and at that time, I'm a college kid, she's a waitress. Like, we weren't living like a parenting lifestyle. I mean, we were going out every weekend, and, just partying. And, I was just going to classes and working a few chump shifts and making music and playing shows with my band. Life was very easy. There was still a lot of stuff going on, obviously, with school, but it was such a transition. And that was where I think my fears came from.
Yeah. Like, can I do this? Like,
holy
shit, like everything's going to change.
Yeah. Like, it was such a big change. I mean, but now it doesn't really feel like it, honestly.
Like, it's different when you reflect back on it now.
Yeah. Like, now it's like, okay, this wasn't nearly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, it felt, I feel like, I don't know. It's like with kids, especially, you obviously have no idea. So it's like, I've always been exposed to kids, there's always been, younger kids in my family. I have cousins that are like 6, 7, 8 years old. And so I've always, been around parents, and obviously, but I never knew what it was like to actually do it, which I feel like nobody does until they do it, kind of thing. So I was like, geez, like, what is this going to be like? I had like the images of like the worst in my mind, at first. So, like, imagine like every bad movie scene with a parent who's like got like the worst, like, chaotic life,
Yeah. Yeah. You're just not sure what it's going to be like. Did you have anybody like you talk to, maybe any other like friends that were already dads, or, you kind of mentioned you were kind of one of the first in your kind of crew of friends.
Yeah. No one that I am close friends with has had any kids yet. So none of my college friends, none of my high school friends. I am the first.
They're going to be coming to you.
What is that?
They're going to be coming to you for advice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing. So when they have a situation, planned or unplanned, they'll be coming to me. It's funny because a lot of my high school friends, who I still keep in touch with, I have a pretty good group of guys from high school. We've been friends forever because where we grew up, the area we lived in was just one school. So we went to school from preschool until, senior year together.
Yeah.
And none of them even knew, because I forgot to tell some people. Like the first few months, it was so, we were scrambling and trying to figure out so much stuff. Like I had told my parents and my grandparents, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then people started finding it through like my family members' posts, I guess, on Facebook and stuff. And I had people calling me like, "You're having a kid?" I actually had someone from high school the other day message me on Instagram and say, "Dude, I didn't know you got a kid. Like, you got a baby mama and a kid? That's crazy, man." I was like, "Yeah, like, yeah, that's cool, right?" Like,
so were there any?
I didn't know anybody. Like, back to your point, was especially like when it happened. Like, obviously, I could talk to my dad or mature, like people older than me that had already kind of gone through it. But otherwise, that was it.
Were there any like specific, I guess, things that you did or strategies you guys had to kind of get prepared or like figure out what to expect? Or like some people read books, some people go to classes, some people, are more lax about it. They're just like, "Oh, we'll figure it out." Like, how did you guys kind of approach that?
I think so. I was more lax about it, which is how I tend to be about anything that's like big in life. I feel like I've always been real lax about work, real lax about school, like not in a bad way where I'm like performing poorly, but I just like mentally I approach it as if it's not the biggest deal, or I try to make it that way because it just seems to keep me less afraid of the subject, whatever it might be. And that's how I got through playing some of the bigger shows that we started playing when we've opened up for some of the touring bands that have come through here. I would be really nervous on a couple of them. We opened up for this one band, South of Eden, and they're sharing the same record label as Greta Van Fleet. They're one of the bigger, like classic rock kind of bands right now. And
wow, cool.
it was great. It was so cool to be asked to open up and support a band like that coming through our area. But I was freaked out for like a couple of weeks beforehand because I didn't know what type of crowd they were going to draw, or yada yada, all different types of things. And I just started being like, it's just a local show. Like the week before, I was like, this is just another local show at Archetype. We played there 10 times, nothing different. Which is, I tend to approach a lot of stuff like that these days. It just seems to help keep it calmer. Yeah,
and you kind of like I'm kind of the same way. It's kind of funny. Like I sometimes will tell people like, I don't really get nervous. Like it's a bit of a problem sometimes. Like I'll almost like you, like I'll kind of be a little bit too lax about things, but
sometimes it does become a problem because it'll creep up on you. Yeah. Almost in like a procrastination kind of way for me sometimes.
That being said, most of the time I find it does like reinforce itself. Like you're like, okay, actually that wasn't that bad. And so, if you can kind of get over those initial hump of like, being freaked out, it can sort of pay off. So, and I find actually, to bring it back to like the parenting discussion, like I think that's what a lot of people say. They're like, you just need to learn to roll with it. And that's kind of true, right? It's easy to say in retrospect, I guess, but.
Yeah, I think we've learned that. I think to the original question about, what did we do to prepare for it? Like I was obviously very lax. Chloe did all the books and she did a lot of research and, a lot of diet research. And she was really, really on top of that, which I don't know if that's typical. I feel like I see it with like older parents. I know that the moms are usually more on top of that, and not that it has to be that way. I feel like I probably could have taken a little more responsibility with like the preparation stuff. Looking back, I just was not that it's something to feel bad about, but I was just so like, in awe of trying to like be ready for it that I was just kind of like waiting for the day. And then once she was here, then I was going to figure out everything. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, it does. Yeah, for sure.
It was kind of like that. The one thing that did, and this is funny, but I was right around the time we found out we were having a baby. I was watching that Mandalorian TV show with Baby Yoda. And so I found myself like somehow like weirdly nostalgically like connected to that character with the baby because I was having a baby and he was like,
that's so funny.
Like, this guy can, drag this baby all throughout the galaxy and, do all these things with a baby and the bag on his hip. Like, I can do anything.
It's like a good metaphor, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cheesy or like kind of silly, but also it's like, I think that's the beauty of like television and like watching stuff in general is like, you can kind of like, it can definitely like reinforce things in your own life, even if it is about a dude in space with a little green monkey baby.
Yeah.
Like, but that was one thing that I found comforting throughout that year was stuff like that, or anything that like anytime I was watching anything that like had like a parental kind of vibe to it, or reading anything, it kind of like reinforced this idea for me that I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah,
Cool.
like, yeah, it's scary like on the like individual level, but once you kind of like can realize like people do this, lots of people do this, lots of people are able to do it, I'm going to be able to do this. It is kind of comforting, right?
Oh yeah, and it sounds messed up to say, but like I know people who like I would have thought to be like not the best parents that are killing it, especially like some of my family members. Like I would have never imagined them as like great parents, and I see them like killing. I'm like, okay, like I can do this, like things like that. Just like it could be anything, I guess, to reinforce it. But
well, we kind of like, we maybe kind of skip past this a little bit, but maybe this will take us back. Like you said, you feel like you're a rad dad, which is great. I think you're a rad dad too. What are those characteristics maybe of a rad dad or a rad parent? You kind of talked about like, it may not be what you initially think, like, you know, some like what makes a parent rad?
Yeah, I think it definitely is for most people, like outside looking in, it's probably not what you would think. And I think it's just like a mix of becoming, you know, not losing. I think when I especially think of like people that I think are like the coolest kind of parents, or like, you know, the raddest dads, it's like people that are able to get everything done that they want to do in their own life, and also being a great parent. It's like when you see like a guy like Jason Momoa like raising great kids, like that guy's rad, and he's got like awesome kids, and he's like, you know, this awesome Hawaiian actor dude.
He's so cool.
Yeah, he's so cool, and he does so much cool stuff, but he's also, you know, a really good father. Like stuff like that, I think, is really what creates it. It's like, you know, maybe there are people that aren't rad dads, but it's kind of like just being a great human and raising a great kid, but also, you know, doing great things in your own life as well. I think like, especially when you see people that are like pro skateboarders, or, you know, really big musicians that are great parents, it's like, you know, these guys are getting shit done that they wanted to do with their time on earth, because we all have such limited time. And it's so easy when you become a parent to I feel like sacrifice all of your time and do nothing for yourself. And I see that a lot. And the people that I see that are doing that, they always seem really unhappy. And I think they're doing something honorable, probably in their own minds. Like they're probably like, you know, I have this kid and I have to do everything I can 24 hours a day to do this. And then they sacrifice the things that maybe, you know, the 25-year-old version of them wanted to really do that was so important to them. And I feel like that's not a great way to be a parent, because I think we had touched on it. He's like getting that stuff for yourself, whether it be, you know, 30 minutes of playing an Xbox or going to the gym for an hour or whatever it might be. Just being able to get time for yourself. But, you know, I feel like that dragged on, but you just being, especially for when we're doing something like this, like being a musician or doing something like that and getting that all done, I think that's very rad, and also being a good parent.
Yeah, you know, that really resonates with me, what you just said. Like I kind of agree with you. I think, you know, it doesn't have to be like I said before, I guess, like a huge passion project. You don't have to, you know, make some huge mark on the world necessarily if that's not your thing. But I do think, like, you know, people, like, I think most people would kind of agree, like in terms of parenting, like modeling things to your kids. Like, so I was talking with Scott Owen from The Living End. And he said something like, it's not what you say or tell your kids, it's what you show them. It's, you know, kind of what you model for them. And so I think that kind of plays into it too. Like, it's not just like teaching them life lessons, but when they, like, you know, you've got a 9-month-old, they're not really probably internalizing, you know, she's not internalizing that, but
she's not formulating those deeper thoughts yet.
Yeah, as they get older, they see you doing things that make you happy, and like that, I guess, this is the way I feel about it, that teaches them that that's important, and that you should do things you care about and love. Yeah,
I think you can teach work ethic too.
Yeah,
For me,
right.
like one thing that was really cool, and this is a small thing, also a little cheesy, but when we recorded the album, we had just gotten all the instrumental tracks back. This was like last March, so just like 2 or 3 months right before Sawyer was born. And we had gotten all the master, no vocals. We just had the instrumental tracks. And I was riding around in my car with my older roommate, Andrew. He had lived here with us, and we're listening back to the files. And one of the songs came on. He got super excited about the intro to the song. He really liked it. It's a song on the album called "Scraping Truth." It's got this real heavy, like radio rock intro on it. And he was like, "Dude,
track 2."
Yeah, second track on the album that kind of comes in real hot. We were listening to the start of that, and he's getting all excited. He's like, "Dude, your kid's gonna think you're so cool, dude. Like your kid's gonna have like a rock star dad or something like that." And I was like that was really cool, because like whether or not we actually do anything with it or not, like I hope always be performing somewhere where she can like see that and enjoy it as well. And hopefully have it be a cool thing for her, and not like oh, my dad's a lame guitar player kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially once they get into teenage years, she might not think it's so cool, but depends on the times.
They like, as they get older too, like my my youngest daughter Nora, she always wants to. I work from home most of the time. Like I'm kind of based out of home. Actually, I'm not at home working a lot, but when I am home, she's like, even just working, like sitting in front of a computer typing, she thinks that's cool. So she's like, I want to sit up there and pretend to work or whatever. And so they love seeing that.
They mimic, and they think it's like they want to do. Even now, even at like 9 months, Sawyer only wants adult things. She wants nothing to do with her own toys most of the time. She wants whatever we have in our hands, or she wants dog bowls or just something random. Like they want the things that are being done around them. It seems like they follow that.
I think like sometimes we don't give them enough credit or something, that like they don't just want to like play toys all the time. They want to learn about the world around them, right?
No, they want to hold that cell phone, and they want to look at all the pretty lights and scroll on the phone.
Yeah, cell
even
phone.
at 9 months, she loves cell phones. She thinks cell phones are the coolest thing she's ever seen. But we try not to let her have them, because of the blue light stuff on their little eyes, and also just like probably not that good for them to stick a cell phone in their mouth and chew on it. She'll do that too.
Yeah.
So.
My parents gave us like this big bag of old cell phones, like the old early 2000s flip phones and stuff like that. And that's been like the best toy ever for our kids, like because they want to play whatever. So when they're like really little, sticking it in their mouth, that's a problem. But they love it.
Do they still play with them now?
They do. They were just playing with them this morning.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like it never really. I feel like, especially thinking about my childhood, is you always want to grow up when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Like you always want to be an adult, and then at some point when you're an adult, you probably think, "Damn, it would be nice to be 14 again and not have any responsibility." Like, it's like funny how that happens. I feel like you always want to grow up so fast, and then like for me, I think when I turned 21, the years after that, the time seemed to have flown so fast. Like for some reason, like my youth from whatever elementary school up until like the first years of community college felt so long. Like those years felt like they took forever to pass. And then I turned 21, and then 3 years later I have a baby, and it's like time has flown so quickly. It's like, where have these years gone? And I feel like everyone probably feels like that, but especially as you start to get busier, and like having a kid, having a full-time job, and then devoting any time left to trying to have a successful band career. It's like you really feel like you've lost a lot of like times. Feels like moments are just gone.
And it's funny, like people, like you've heard that a million times, like people say that all the time, like the years go by so fast, like soak it in, like enjoy your time. And
until just a couple of years ago, and especially once we had the baby, time it seemed to have flown. The weeks just kind of like fly by because the routine and stuff. It is rewarding, and it does keep you on a good routine, but a whole week of time just seems to it's like you do the same thing every day almost, and it's just like time just seems to just like everything flows together. Me and Chloe say all the time, everything just kind of like flops together. It's like a blur.
Yeah.
Uh,
You mentioned your dad. Like what it sounds like your dad's still around and
yeah,
that kind of stuff. But growing up, like what was your relationship like with your dad? And maybe where I'm going with it is like, do you think about that now that you're a dad?
yeah, I do actually, because I think about I feel like and not in a terrible way or anything, not bashing him, but I feel like I think about um, the things that we did that were great, and some of the things that he did that maybe didn't have the best effect on me. And yeah, as like, you know, especially now, especially when I'm conscious of it, I'd like to not repeat, the same mistakes that he had, and also I would like to replicate the great things he did too. So I feel like you can learn from anything like that, and
From
parents
both.
all you
Yeah.
can't. No one's a perfect parent. I mean, maybe someone is, but things always. It's hard to be perfect all the time. So there's no fault on him. But we did have a great relationship when I was growing up. From like the time, especially like my early childhood and stuff, is like we did so much fun stuff together. He's always building stuff, or we're always doing some type of sport or video games, and that was obviously up and through like middle school, and then I think middle school is a weird time for every kid. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I had the best freaking time in middle school. Like I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever heard someone say that.
You're just
Nor
an
do I
awkward
really,
person.
yeah, and I don't really even remember. Like those years actually feel the most like blurred to me. Is like those 3 years of middle school, or like what happened in those years? Like where did those years go? Like they're just
Yeah.
it's an odd time. And then in high school, that's what I feel like when life got real busy, and I was I had a late birthday in October, and I also repeated a grade in first grade because I just did so terrible when I was in first grade that they had me repeat the grade,
Yeah.
which I think now is kind of funny. I used to get like annoyed about it. It's like, you guys held me back in first grade, like, but now it's like, oh, geez, like what could I have possibly done?
Right.
But that put me a year ahead of everyone in my own grade. So by the time I was like a sophomore in high school, I was driving, which was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So the second year of high school, I had a car, which was cool, I guess, but also kind of wild.
The first to turn 18, and first to turn 21.
Yeah, I was 18. When did I turn 18? I guess right in October of senior year, which most people aren't turning 18 until close to the end or the next year,
Right.
at least in the grade I was in. But I think around that time period in life is when, I'm becoming more adult. And obviously I was arrogant. I was very arrogant, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy. And I think that's where we started butting heads, which I think is typical for high school boys and their fathers to get into scuffles about things. But for the most part, though, we had a great relationship. Now, especially that once we've had a baby and I'm, out of college and I'm, working my own job, I think now we have probably the best relationship because now we can just kind of like almost be friends.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, obviously there's still my parents and they still offer advice and stuff, but there's not a whole lot of parenting anymore. We can just kind of have like a normal existence when we're hanging out or talking or whatever it is.
Yeah. As like time goes on, you kind of become more and more like a peer with your parent, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm done school now. Okay. So kind of just like you, I'm working kind of full-time job now, kind of just like you, or like you were. I'm a parent now. So like you kind of like relate on those levels too, right?
Yeah.
Which is
that's a cool thing. Because you have so much more, I feel like, in common, especially when you have a kid.
Yeah.
But they always like have this. It's funny too. They're here right now. I think they're outside with the baby. They're taking a walk. But I don't know if you experienced this with your parents, but especially when you were a new parent. But they seem, because they've had kids before, they don't like to always listen to like our rules about what we think.
Yeah.
They think they have their own idea about how things should be, and that they're like always right about it. So that's the only thing that we have any issue with them sometimes. Especially, we try to keep her diet a little bit different. We don't like to give her a lot of processed stuff. We like to like emulsify all of her food.
Yep.
But our parents didn't do that. And I'm sure yours probably didn't either. And everyone bought baby food from like Gerber, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We're just not sold that that's that good for them. So we like to try to keep her, on pretty much fresh, natural, organic stuff. And our parents, they don't agree.
That's a delicate balance, right? Because yeah, I agree. I, you know, in my own situation was pretty lucky in that way, with my parents being pretty cool about whatever our rules were. But I know lots of people who, you know, really struggled with that. And, you know, even things like you'll come across this too with like discipline and all that kind of stuff when you're not sort of like seeing eye to eye on how things should be handled. And so it's tough to like navigate that for sure.
Yeah. And I think like with some parents, or at least with mine, it's like my parents have always, you know, they're not know-it-alls, but they've always like, they've always, you know, they've still maintained that they like know best with stuff, especially with me. And so that kind of falls down onto the baby too.
Yeah.
So they, you know, they think that everything that they think is fine, which is okay, because it's just like with politics or anything. Like it's just all subjective opinions. Like some people might think it's fine, some people might be against it, and just kind of have to let it flow and avoid the controversy of it.
Yeah, and you know what? Like maybe they are right about certain things. You might not think they are, and they are, and you don't figure it out till later too. Like, and so there's like
there's plenty of stuff like that where they've given me advice, especially when I was younger, and I was like, oh, that's BS. No, that's wrong. And then like a few years later, like hindsight 2020, I was like, oh, they were right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, we're all learning as we go here. So we've talked a little bit about your new album, but let's talk a little bit more about it, like what you guys have going on now. So January 28th, so this is recent, 2 weeks ago, you guys released your new album. So tell me a little bit about it, maybe a little bit about like, you know, I guess the process of that album coming together. We touched on it a little bit already, but, and then what do you guys have going on now that you're in the post album release, you know, world here?
That's where the battle begins for sure. Is the release. But yeah, the album, like you said, it came out on the 28th. I think it's for, you know, anyone that might be listening that, you know, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that haven't heard of us, because we are definitely a newer band that's just kind of breaking into getting, you know, press in different areas. Like, you know, we're getting you in Canada, and we've had some other stuff. It's definitely like it's a mix of everything that we all like about music. And I think that when you listen to the whole thing, that you can kind of go on like a bit of a little trip journey with it, because you go through a lot of different areas of music, I feel like. And it's all rock, I feel, for the most part. There's a few things that kind of touch into some funk stuff and some slower things, a little bit of jammy stuff. But it's kind of like a lot of different subgenres of rock kind of smashed into one thing, because we all have such different taste. The opening track of the album is a song called Let You Get Away. That just comes right in with like a really heavy, just great like moshing riff.
Just hits you like right in the face right off the bat.
Yeah, it comes right in, and it's real heavy. It's got that slam drum beat behind it. And so we open our set with that usually too, because it's just that first that opening drum beat is just this like big roaring bang, and then people just love to just like kick off and just start, you know, headbanging right as that beat drops on that one, which is great, because that's what we love. I think really is we write the songs a lot, especially on the album when people are listening to it. It's going to reflect a lot of really just what we like to do live. That's fun. I think that's the most important thing, is like we always want our live shows to be really fun, and they are. And so we wanted to translate that with this album. So as it goes through, you know, you can kind of, if you listen, we almost play our live set with the same set list as the album is ordered. Because I feel like
that kind of makes sense, right? Like that's the journey you want to take people on, whether it's live or on the record.
It's not a concept album by any means. We did have one review come out where this guy kind of hearkened it to it was a cool review. It was from Brazil, and this guy went through and basically gave what he thought the story was of each song. Like didn't even really review the actual music.
Interesting.
He just focused on the lyrics and like the stories behind the songs, and he kind of like almost like a conspiracy theory, like wrapped the whole thing together in a way that I never had ever put any thought into in that way. But it was really cool to see his interpretation. I was like, I guess when you phrase it like that, then it is this continuous story. He kind of like wrote the whole album out as like this like winding love story, which was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
But really, it's really just everything we love. I don't know what type of music. I I see in the background of your thing, it looks like you got some cool punk posters
Yeah,
up.
I got lots of Descended stuff back here, but it's funny, like you know, listening to the record. So I love it, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It sounds great too. Like the recording and production, everything sounds really great too.
Awesome.
And I kind of wrote, like, as I have been listening over the last little while, I wrote a couple little notes, like just, you know, my thoughts on it and kind of some sounds and, you know, what did I think it sounded like? I don't really like to like, you know, I know like you could go read online and you might get compared to different bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's actually really funny, the way you described it too. Because I wrote down, you know, that like number one, you know, it's rockin', because basically it's a rock and roll album. But I wrote down there's, you know, some jam elements. I wrote down there's some funky kind of stuff in there, like some funky bass kind of stuff.
Yeah, our bass player loves slap bass.
Yeah. And I got a real, like, on some of the songs, like a real kind of Arctic Monkeys kind of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my big influences is Arctic Monkey stuff.
But with a bit more like kind of, there's a bit more kind of like classic rock jam kind of feel to it. And it's awesome. It just, I sent a text to some of my friends actually this morning, like, guys, you got to check this out. Like, this is really good. So
awesome.
Thank
you so much.
So
and that was kind of like the way you described it. I think for people out there that might be curious, is like that is like the mix dynamic that we have. Like our guitar player and also my roommate Alex, he loves metal a lot, but like his real like favorite and like what he grew up on was like a lot of like Guns N' Roses stuff. Yeah, and I feel like you can hear that in the guitar solos
for sure.
Especially like the guitar solo at the end of like Taxi to Your Toxic Lover is like a very Slash inspired solo, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Zach, our bass player, he's all into like Tool and Prog and Primus and a lot of jam band stuff. And so he brings that slap bass and some of those really kind of like different segments that we have transitioning through the songs, which is one thing we try to do.
Yeah, but it's not like it's like disjointed, like you're trying to fit some of that stuff into like, you know, a typical kind of rock and roll melodic song.
That was the hardest challenge we had, was making it make sense, I think, at times.
Yeah, and it does. It doesn't feel like, oh, well, that's weird. Like they went into some weird funk thing here or something. It's like there's none of that.
Just trying to make it flow was like the biggest challenge. I think the two hardest songs on that was Taxi to Your Toxic Lover and Parallel West. Both of those songs have some really like out of right and left field kind of switch ups in them, and kind of making them, you know, flow together was fun and really interesting, but challenging. The guy that we worked with who recorded it was like, a lot of these songs and I actually quoted him on this and I used it for some of our press release stuff, was he had said that they kind of tricked the listener because there's just things like popping in and out that are just like so like random, but they flow and they work, which is one of my favorite aspects of the way the album plays when you listen through. It's like, I feel like you never quite expect what might pop up next.
Yeah, I totally agree. So so great album for people listening or watching, like go out and check it out. So we'll put some links in our social media as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so what
plans, like post release plans that anyone touch on. So that's like where I said that's where the battle begins for sure. Is like, you know, our biggest focus right now is the tours that we have set up, a few festival appearances, and getting all the advertising continually running successfully. And for people out there that, you know, I don't know, people have various ideas. You know, if you're on a major label, which we're not, you don't have to worry about advertising because they're going to do like $1 million, you know, ad campaign for your new music. If you're Drake or if you're Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah.
For us though, we have to do all that ourselves, which is fun because I went to school for marketing and advertising, so I have a background in that. But that's the hardest part, is utilizing Facebook and Instagram and Google. It's a huge part of our post-release campaign. Is we have multiple ads running that change over the next 2 to 3 months, retargeting people that have viewed. You know, the key is to get someone to look at something 6 times before they actually click on it. So we have to, that's like the marketing golden standard number for, you know, phone and internet advertising is average. People will finally click on something after they've seen it 6 times.
Interesting. That's really cool that you have that background too.
It definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know there is this business aspect to it, and the music industry's changed so much. It's very different than it was even 5 or 10, certainly like 20 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
getting
It's
things in
gotten
front of people is tough.
Yeah, that's like I mean, really anymore, if you're not on a label, I feel like there's three ways to get, exposure, and that's touring, playing shows anywhere and everywhere you can for new people. And publicity is, a huge thing now because there's so much music, you have to find some way to get some exposure out in the
Cut through.
world,
Yeah.
to cut through like that noise. And then the advertising, because Google and Facebook and Instagram advertising works great if you can utilize it the right way, and you just gotta have to know what you're doing with it, and it's a slow crawl. So a lot of our streams come from our advertising. Obviously we have like our built-in fan base of people that follow us and will stream and enjoy it, but that's not a ton of people. It's probably under like probably less than 20,000 people, 10,000 people through Spotify that like listen monthly. And it changes, and then the whole game is to get new people to listen. But you have to do that kind of on your own. But that's like the biggest thing, like the next 4 or 5 months is this long advertising campaign. And we have a spot at a music showcase and conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania called Launch Music Festival.
Oh, cool.
Which is like a big industry. There'll be a lot of people there, a lot of like agents and record label representatives and stuff, and they do like 100 bands will play over a weekend and do a big showcase, and they do panels and they do conferences about succeeding in the industry, and it's a big learning experience, and it's a great time for exposure.
Yeah, awesome.
And then we have a spot with our publicist is doing a showcase at South by Southwest, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So she got us coming to South by Southwest to play their showcase, which is probably the coolest thing we've done yet. We'll be able to get to play there for all the different people that go out to Austin for that. And that's like that'll be our first like larger festival appearance. We haven't really been a part of anything like notable before like that, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think for like people listening who might not have thought about like what goes into all this stuff, like to kind of get out there and build your band and your brand and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like there's a lot that does go into it. I was just listening to a podcast the other day about like they were talking about Facebook marketing and Facebook ads and how you can like those can work really well for you, or if you don't kind of know what you're doing, like it's just like anything else, like playing an instrument, like if you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to turn out well for you. So so it's really, really interesting. So what about touring? You mentioned touring. That's a little bit more challenging probably now.
It is more challenging now. We did one, the last one we did was like 2 weeks straight, and we went around Florida, then we went up to Philadelphia, and it was good, but it was the weekday shows that honestly were not quite worthwhile, because like when you're playing a Tuesday night in like Charleston, South Carolina, no one knows you. It's kind of, you get a few people out, but it's tough to really get any exposure doing it that way. So we have a couple things. One, there's a band in Miami, Florida called Rock Revolt and the Velvets. They're an awesome band, one of the bigger bands I think that's kind of up and coming. They're also getting ready to release an album like we did. So we're jumping on like 4 of their tour dates with them in April, which is cool. Just nice. A couple weekend shows with them. And then so that's just good support, and we'll gain from their fan base. And then we have our own tour planned for it's 4 weekends from the end of May through the 3rd weekend of June, where we will go all through Florida again, and we'll go to Nashville, Baltimore, DC, and Philly, and then come back down.
Nice. So you've got plans for the next little while. It's gonna be
the next like 4 or 5 months are busy, but it's just like the most important time to like keep momentum going, and keep like press flowing, so they can we need to keep doing things. That way our Steph and the Whoa That's Press publicity team can keep spinning different press reports, like, they're supporting tour lineup here, own tour plan, stuff like that. Which is cool.
Where can people find your new record, Apparitions? Like streaming? What else? Other formats they can pick it up in?
Yeah, so obviously all the streaming services: Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple. The only other format we have right now, and this was kind of a tough decision, was we were going to get vinyls pressed, but we were worried about our current audience being super reactive to buying vinyls. We've never done that before. And obviously there is a market for people that buy vinyls, but
Yeah.
for us to get them pressed, we would have had to get like 100 of them made, was like a couple thousand. And so
Yeah.
we'd have, because it's really expensive right now to press vinyls, and we would have had to have sold them for like 50 or 60 bucks to make our money back, just to break even. So we forego that route, and we ended up finding a guy that makes homemade cassettes.
Yeah.
So he does all the packaging. He winds them and prints the music on the cassettes himself, which is really cool. So we got a limited run of those done in 2 different colors. We have them for $15 on our website. We sell everything through our website. I know a lot of people do Bandcamp, but we just do it through our website because it allows us to retain all of we don't have any fees.
Yeah.
So Bandcamp always takes a portion, but we don't have any fees on our website because we own the domain, so we can sell stuff right through there and keep, no extra fees getting taken out.
Yeah, which is good. Like, I think, for people who want to support a band, to find ways to do that where as much of their money that they want to support the band actually ends up in the band's pockets. So
yeah, it's great. It goes right from the website to our band PayPal, and we have it all stored up, which is awesome. We have t-shirts. We just did another interesting thing is we're doing in the process of releasing a line of collaborated merchandise with this company from New York called Canceled.
Okay.
So they're up and coming clothing brand. They're really, really awesome designs, a very punk, very like street style rock looking clothing, super unique graphics though. I've never seen anything like it when I found it. So I actually got in touch with the owner, who happens just to be one guy living in Brooklyn, coolest dude. And he designed us 3 t-shirts and a bunch of patches for like a full collaborative line with his company, which is great. So we have the first design out right now. We've actually gotten rid of a good amount of them, which is good. And over the next few months, we'll unveil a few more pieces that we've done with them.
Cool. Well, that's amazing. Like wishing you all the best with the album and touring coming up this year. It's been great to meet you. I appreciate you coming by the Rad Dad show. We always thanks, man. Me too. We always kind of like to ask kind of towards the end if you have any advice out there for maybe new dads, or maybe in your case dads to be. You kind of recently went through that, so
I feel like the thing that I learned and that I wasn't always was keeping my head level through the whole process, especially if it is coming at a pivotal time in life and you have a lot going on, or you do have something like a band or something that you're really trying to maintain and really still trying to grow. Because I think at times I didn't have the most level head about things. And I feel like, just realizing that you can still, and one thing that my girlfriend had to help me realize a lot was that we could still get everything done that we need to get done and still be good parents and still be like financially stable. And I think just like going into that process, just like, even if it doesn't seem like it, or if it's not working at first, just like knowing that at some point you will be able to get all those things done. You just have to kind of be patient.
Yeah, you can do it. It might not be like today that you get that thing done, but maybe it's tomorrow.
And not to force things and try to, don't try to swim upstream, because I did that a lot too. Was, trying to force things, getting myself way too stressed and in over my head with certain things, and, just kind of like flow with whatever the situation is, and it definitely will work out a lot better.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. Thanks, man. Yeah, it was great to meet you, and stoked for your band and the new record, and people like.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you actually took the time to listen through it and made some notes. That means a lot. We've had interviews where it seemed like they really didn't actually know anything about it. So it was cool that you had taken the time to actually kind of get to know it, which is important to a small band like us. We want people, taking that time. So anyone out there, I feel one thing I like to say, and I've told people when I post on Instagram, is that whether you like hard rock or you like indie rock or alt rock or, various kinds of pop music, there's probably a song in the album that I think you can relate to and enjoy. So I feel like it touches so much stuff. So, people out there tempted to listen to it, just dive into it. Scroll through some of the songs. You might not like them. We're not going to be upset if you skip. but there's going to be something in there that I think you'll like.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's great, and yeah, I'm a big fan, and yeah, looking forward to seeing big things from you guys this year. So yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Really great meeting you.
You too, man.